All right, today we are digging into something kind of fascinating. It's a single academic paper from way back in 2010 that, no joke, basically predicted the entire digital advertising world we're all living in right now. I mean, it literally wrote the playbook that companies are still using today.
You know that feeling, right? You're just browsing for something and boom, an ad pops up that feels a little too perfect, like it's reading your mind. Well, it's not an accident. That whole experience was basically designed over a decade ago, and we're going to break down exactly how.
Okay, let's go back in time. Picture it, 2010. The iPhone is still pretty new, broadband is finally becoming a thing everywhere, and people are starting to spend way more time online than they are watching TV. Now, if you're an advertiser who'd spent a lifetime mastering the 30-second TV commercial, this was a full-blown crisis. The old rules just weren't working anymore.
So to figure out what to do next, researchers went straight to the source. They talked to 21 senior execs from all over the digital ad industry. We're talking advertisers, agencies, the tech companies building all the new tools. In this study, which came out in the International Journal of Advertising, it captured everything they thought was coming. And here's the crazy part. They were spot on.
Yeah, what they found painted this super clear picture of a massive shift. It was like moving from the old world of mass media into a whole new digital-first reality. So, these experts pointed to 5 key game-changing trends. We've kind of grouped these big ideas into 3 main chapters to tell the story of how, well, your entire online experience got built from the ground up.
All right, Chapter 1. This is maybe the biggest shift of all. Advertising had to stop shouting at everyone and start talking to you, specifically. This was the start of the personal ad revolution.
The very first new rule, it was all about permission. See, the experts realized that on a device as personal as your phone, an ad you didn't ask for feels like a serious intrusion. Think about it. It's the difference between someone politely knocking on your door versus just shouting a sales pitch through your mailbox. So the new model had to give you, the consumer, the choice to opt in or out.
And this quote from the study just illustrates the point perfectly. One research director said, "People don't use their mobile phone the same way they use internet or watch TV. Their mobile phone is becoming a personal assistant." I mean, think about that. It's not just a screen, it's your personal assistant. So just blasting it with generic, unwanted ads, that wasn't just going to be ineffective. The experts were worried it could actually hurt a brand's reputation.
And that, of course, leads directly to the next big idea. I mean, if you're going to ask for permission to show someone an ad, you'd better have something relevant and interesting to say, right? This is where personalization comes in, the second huge trend they identified.
The experts basically mapped out a system that works exactly like what you see here. First, you browse a topic online. Then, the system makes a little note of that interest. And finally, it serves you an ad that's actually relevant. They even predicted the rise of what they called geolocalization, using your physical location to make ads even more specific. This personalization engine, it's basically the core of the internet we use every single day.
Okay, on to Chapter 2. The next huge idea was that advertising couldn't just be a one-way street anymore. No, it had to become a conversation, a real interactive experience that could flow seamlessly across all the new screens popping up in our lives. Now, what's really cool about this is the strategy behind it. The experts saw the TV, the internet, and your mobile phone weren't competitors. They actually worked together. You use the TV for those huge mass-market brand announcements. You use the internet to target more specific interests. And you use mobile for those super personal, right here, right now messages. It's a single, unified strategy, not just slapping the same ad on 3 different screens. Yeah, one of the media planning directors in the study just summed it up perfectly. They said, television, internet, and mobile should not be seen as competitors, but complementary in their roles. The whole goal isn't just to add more channels. It's about using each one for what it's best at to create a campaign that's way bigger than the sum of its parts. And that way of thinking is completely standard now.
But this idea of a conversation led to another huge breakthrough. See, the old ad model was basically a monologue. Brands talked, and everybody else just listened. But with digital media, for the very first time, what if the audience could talk back?
And that led to the 4th major trend, this absolute explosion of interactivity. We're talking about things like branded online games, polls that give companies instant feedback, even campaigns built around content that you create. The whole idea was to stop just telling people about a product and instead invite them to experience it, to play with it, and to become a part of the brand's story.
And that brings us to our 3rd and final chapter. Because hey, if you're going to completely change all the rules of the game, you're going to need a new way to keep score, right?
The old ways of measuring things are pretty much becoming useless.
This slide really shows the huge before and after. The old way was all about impressions, which was basically a fancy word for a loose guess of how many eyeballs might have seen a TV ad or a billboard. But the new way, which was the fifth and final trend, was all about performance. We're talking about tracking exactly who clicked, who bought something, who signed up. It was a massive move away from guesswork and into the world of cold, hard data.
And this right here is the new scoreboard. You started hearing terms like cost per click, or CPC, and cost per action, CPA. This meant that for the first time ever, advertisers could calculate a direct return on their investment. They weren't just paying for vague exposure anymore. They were paying for actual results. And that changed everything.
And the stakes here were absolutely massive. Back in 2009, the study's authors were looking at a projection that the digital ad market would blow past $90 billion by 2013. That is the kind of money that fuels revolutions. So getting these new rules right wasn't just some academic exercise, it was a financial necessity.
So let's just tie this all together. These 5 big ideas, permission, personalization, the 3-screen strategy, interactivity, and performance metrics, they aren't just business school concepts. They are the invisible architecture of your digital life. They literally shape every single ad you see, every piece of content that gets recommended to you. This 2010 paper didn't just predict the future. In a lot of ways, it helped build it.
Which, of course, leaves us with one last big question. The rulebook that was written back in 2010 pretty much defined the digital world for over a decade. But today, with AI that can create hyper-personal ads in a matter of seconds, are we on the verge of another revolution? Is a whole new playbook about to be written all over again? That's definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.